Well, traditionally, I will start with reporter from Russian media about latest update of Defense Ministry on the work of air defense systems on duty. RIA Novosti is reporting that air defense systems overnight intercepted 32 drones that was launched by Kyiv regime with assistance of its NATO backers to strike deep into Russian territory. I can give you some details on that. So 11 drones were intercepted over the Volgograd region. Also 7 drones in direction of Crimea. In Voronezh and Belgorod regions were intercepted 5 drones each. In Tambov and Rostov regions, 2 drones each. Not that large-scale attempt of Kyiv regime and NATO to strike deep into Russian territory. I guess they are saving some drones to launch massive attacks deep into Russian territory once Trump's so-called ultimatum will expire in 8 days. Now, maybe that is the reason that Kyiv regime and NATO only launched a couple of dozens of drones. Nevertheless, it is good to know that Russian air defense systems are always on top of the game and intercepting vast majority of the incoming aerial targets. Also, dear friends, Russian armed forces conducted long-range precise strikes on military and logistics infrastructure of the Kyiv regime in a number of directions, including Kiev. And let me show you some of the videos that are circulating on the internet about these strikes. For example, this video, short clip. Or this video. So, and there are dozens of other videos, by the way, that are circulating on internet about strikes and the aftermath of these strikes. No details are at this point, but during the day, Russian Defense Ministry probably will provide us information what exactly was targeted in Kiev. But strikes did take place also in Zhytomyr region, Pavlograd direction, Dnipropetrovsk region. Giran drones, and there are also missiles, cruise missiles, ballistic or tactical missiles were used during these strikes on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kyiv regime, and there are also military facilities that are engaged in production of drones or reassembling of their drones and repairs of their military equipment of Kyiv regime. During the day, I'm quite sure Russian Defense Ministry will provide us update on that. And also, dear friends, I will say breaking news for this moment, news that many people here in Russia and I guess worldwide among Russia supporters were expecting to hear, which is that Russian troops finally have liberated Chisov Yar. This information is confirmed by Defense Ministry, and the report from RIA Novosti is, to go into details, that units of their southern group of forces have taken control of the city of Chisov Yar in DPR. Russian Defense Ministry reported as a result of offensive actions by southern group of forces in Kramatorsk-Drushkovka direction, the city of Chisov Yar of their Donetsk People's Republic was fully liberated, the statement said, and this is a big deal, obviously. Battle for Chisov Yar basically had begun straight after Bakhmut was liberated by Russian forces. You remember ordeal with the Bakhmut city, and their battles for Chisov Yar were taking many months, by the way, many months, due to a number of reasons. After all, Russian armed forces were conducting sectoral scale offensive operations in many other directions. So Chisov Yar was not their main focus of the Russian armed forces, but progress was obvious. On daily basis, Russian troops were improving positions, securing already liberated areas, and there finally we get there. Chisov Yar is completely liberated, which is definitely big deal. When it comes to battlefield, dear friends, I will highlight progress of the Russian armed forces in Kupiansk direction also, which is a Kharkov region. Russian troops launched local scale offensive operation from Sipovo and Novosselka towards Kupiansk. This is eastern, southern eastern direction, and also obviously, we all know, I was reporting about it earlier, that Russian troops basically encircled Kupiansk from northern western side. And on your screen right now, you can see these circles around the settlements that were liberated by Russian forces exactly on the western and the northern flank from their city, important city at this point on a battlefield. And I guess it will not take long before we will see significant scale operations began inside Kupiansk itself. Already Russian DRGs are operating in a city, and according to number of reports, although this is not confirmed officially by Defense Ministry, but according to number of sources, Russian troops are already in control of number of blocks inside Kupiansk itself. Also, when it comes to developments on a line of contact, you remember I was reporting that Kyiv regime sent a significant number of reserve forces in northern part of Sumy region, where Russian armed forces creating a buffer zone quite successfully, I will say. And as a result of deployment of this larger reserve forces of the Kyiv regime, there was some sort of operational pause in the northern Sumy. Allegedly, Kyiv regime's forces managed to reclaim control over the Kondratrovka settlement, although this information not yet being confirmed by Russian Defense Ministry. But nevertheless, what I want to highlight is that, the situation has been stabilized. Despite the deployment of these larger reserve forces by Kyiv regime, they were unable to break into Russian defense lines in this area to regain initiative. I guess these reserve forces of the Kyiv regime are running out of steam now. Reports are, by the way, that during the battles, Russian armed forces neutralized the special forces of the Kyiv regime. A colonel of the special forces of main intelligence directorate of Kyiv regime's defense ministry was also neutralized as a result of battles in this direction. Reports are that yet another entire unit of Kyiv regime special forces was ambushed in exactly Kondratovka direction and completely eliminated, which is also success on the Russian part. But nevertheless, what is most important at this point, that despite all the attempts by Kyiv regime and its NATO backers to regain initiative in northern Sumy area, they failed there. They failed big time. They are running out of steam now, and I guess either before end of this week or next week, probably we will see resumption of the Russian offensive in this direction. And I guess one of the first settlements that will be secured by Russian forces will be exactly the Kondratovka settlement that is disputed at this point, let's say this way. Also, interesting reports from Kherson direction, dear friends, where allegedly, based on information from a number of sources, Kyiv regime troops tried to cross a railway bridge on the Dnieper River on the northern side of Kherson. On your screen, you can see, by the way, on the left corner here, Kherson itself, city. And bridge is located here, where you see this white circle. And the Kyiv regime's troops were trying to cross this railway bridge, through bridge itself, and also same time, number of boats were deployed. Russian troops were monitoring the situation, and as a result of Russian fire, Kyiv regime's forces were neutralized. This attacking force was neutralized, and then Russian troops take on offensive and clear the bridge completely and establish a Russian flag on the bridge, which is also important development, I will say, because now, due to activization of their military operations in the Kherson direction, one may argue that either Kyiv regime's forces or the Russian forces are planning to go ahead with the sectoral scale offensive operations. Both are possible. Both scenarios are possible because, as we all had observed in previous years, every summer, NATO was basically ordering Kiev regime to launch offensive operations, sectoral scale offensive operations, and I think NATO will go ahead with the similar actions this year too, and will order Kiev regime to send whatever reserves they have on yet another suicidal offensive. And where this offensive might take place is anybody's guess. It might be southern sectors, Kherson, Zaporozhye, for example, where Russian troops are locked and ready to repel whatever enemy will come up with. And also, as I said in previous updates, there is a theoretical, at least, possibility that Kiev regime's forces will concentrate more troops in Chernigov region and will try to break into a Bryansk region of the Russian Federation, for example. This is also theoretically, at least, possible. Whatever the case, obviously, Russian Defense Ministry is monitoring the situation, and Russian troops are yet again locked and ready. At the same time, by the way, we should keep in mind that Russian troops are activating their operations in southern sectors, Kherson, Zaporozhye, and also basically all along the front line. And therefore, it is also a possibility that Russian armed forces will actually launch offensive, sectoral scale offensive operations in this direction, either in Kherson region with a massive crossing of the Dnieper River, maybe in the Zaporozhye region, where Russian troops already have managed to achieve quite significant progress with the local scale offensive operations. Just recently, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, Russian troops liberated Kamenka settlement. As you know, I was reporting about it, and Kamenka was a major stronghold of the Kiev regime on the western flank of Zaporozhye region. Nevertheless, to finalize, basically, Russian initiative is in Russian hands, in hands of Russian troops all along the front line, and no matter with what kind of operations Kiev regime and its NATO backers come up with, there is not even theoretical chance that they can either turn the tide of this fighter or regain initiative on any of their directions. That's how it is. Also, dear friends, some details about losses of the Kiev regime during the previous 24 hours. TASS News Agency is reporting that Kiev regime's forces lost more than 1,300 troops just in previous 24 hours all along the front line. Daily stuff, by the way. These kind of reports are coming in literally on daily basis, that Kiev regime every single day is losing 1,300 military personnel, up to 1,500 military personnel. I mean, these informations are one of the reasons why many military experts, not just here in Russia, but also, for example, in the Western world, are anticipating that Kiev regime's defense lines will no longer manage to basically hold on defensive lines. And many experts are expecting collapse. Many experts are expecting collapse of Kiev regime's defense lines, and then domino effect to take place, because allegedly Kiev regime is mobilizing about 20-30,000 troops on monthly basis, forcefully mobilizing. A significant number of these troops are using first opportunity to surrender once they will end up on the line of contact. Also, there is a high rate of desertion on in Kiev regime's forces, and if you take overall losses, monthly losses, you will find, numbers don't lie, isn't it? Kiev regime is losing basically twice more troops on a monthly basis that they are able to actually mobilize and send to the front line, and then to force them to actually fight. But as I said, there are a significant number of Kiev regime's troops using first opportunity to contact Russian side and surrender, and there is a high rate of desertion too. And even Western media outlets are basically acknowledging now this, that every third, every fourth forcefully mobilized military personnel in Kiev regime's so-called armed forces are deserting, and quite often they are killing their officers and deserting like that. Anyways, let's continue. TASS News Agency is reporting that Ukrainian armed forces, and I spoke about this yesterday too, but I think news is very important to highlight with whom we are dealing when it comes to Kiev regime and its NATO backers. So Ukrainian armed forces change prisoners' status to a missing in action to reduce their payments. So the commander of the 95th Airborne Assault Brigade of Ukrainian Armed Forces is changing the status of prisoners to missing in action. Prisoners of war, by the way. They are changing status of POWs, Ukrainian POWs, to missing in action in order to reduce the amount of payments to relatives after Russian media published confirmations of their being captured and their dear friends. We should keep in mind that Russian Armed Forces only releasing information about POWs when POWs, while being captured, are saying that they want to be part of POW exchange. Thousands and thousands of Ukrainian POWs refusing to participate in POW exchanges because they know they're going to end up on the line of contact soon after being released. And when there is such a case, information about these POWs is getting classified to make sure that their relatives would not be harassed by the regime and would not be terrorized. It is impossible to make sure that this will work in every single case, but Russian side is doing whatever is possible to basically secure not just POWs, but their relatives also that are still on the Kyiv-controlled territory. But when POW says that he or her willing to be part of prisoner exchange, POW exchange, information is being released in that case. And when Kyiv regime is find out that this personnel is POW, they are changing their status on a missing in action, so that they would not pay compensations. And on this topic, dear friends, to highlight what are despicable elements have been supported by collective West in the Kyiv regime, many media outlets reported that bodies of the killed Ukrainian military personnel that Russia transferred recently to a Kyiv regime, and we are talking about 7,000 plus bodies of the killed military personnel, have been burned by Kyiv regime so that they would not pay compensations to their relatives. They are burning the bodies, by the way. Many media outlets did report about it. Maybe not all of them, but they are burning the bodies. They will, for media op, they will transfer bodies of dozen or 2 dozen of killed military personnel to their families. They will make sure that all their so-called Western media and the local so-called media will make reports about it. Rest will be burned, and their relatives will never find out what happened to their loved ones. That's the Kyiv regime, by the way, and that's the face of backers of the Kyiv regime from Western elites. And also, this information is no any less important. I spoke about it yesterday too, but I think it's worth to repeat that Kyiv regime, or Zelensky himself, to be more precise, signed a law expanding mobilization to men over 60 years as a Ukraine's war effort strains. So what can I say, dear friends? Until now, men from 25 to 60 were forcefully mobilized. And now they're going to basically mobilize literally everybody over 24 that can stand on their feet and held the rifle. Is this not a demonstration of desperation on part of NATO and the Kyiv regime? I think it is. And I remind you, dear friends, that there is a draft bill in State Rada in Ukraine, which is their so-called parliament, which will authorize, if adopted, which will authorize people to be mobilized from 18 to 24 also. And I think it is only a matter of time. And out of desperation, globalists and their puppet regimes in Europe, first of all, UK, France, Germany, and others, will force their proxy regime in Kiev to actually adopt this law and begin mobilizing this younger generation, people, teenagers, basically. I mean, 18, 19, and, you know. Meanwhile, protests continue in Kyiv-controlled territory. including in Kiev protests in regards to Zelensky's assault on these so-called anti-corruption agencies, SAP and NABU. And we all understand that all these protests, there are too many indicators to know perfectly well that all these protests have been orchestrated by US Secret Services and with participation of British Secret Services, of course. Organizers of these protests are affiliated with many NGOs that were funded from the West, including by Soros founder, right? Soros founder, USAID, when USAID was still active, right? And so, as expected, and as I said many times before, I think Washington and London have had finalized their position. They want to replace Zelensky now, and therefore they will not stop these protests. These protests are orchestrated by London and Washington, and they're not gonna stop. They're not gonna stop. And I guess, I mean, it is difficult to say when exactly they're gonna replace Zelensky, but I think before end of this year, Zelensky most likely will be replaced by Zaluzhny if Zelensky and his criminal associates will not take a hit on Zaluzhny. They might actually try to neutralize Zaluzhny, by the way, but I don't think this will save Zelensky anyways, right? Because I guess the decision was made to remove this personality from office. And on this matter, by the way, also interesting report that I highlighted yesterday too, which is coming from Anatoly Shary, Ukrainian journalist, public figure, politician. Now, according to Anatoly Shary, Zelensky is big time disappointed with his best buddy, Andrei Yermak, head of his office, who was participating in a secret meeting that took place in Alpes together with Budanov and Zaluzhny, who is serving as a Ukraine's ambassador in UK, during the which allegedly topic of replacement of Zelensky was discussed and even agreed. Right, so now Zelensky wants to get rid of Yermak, and he might probably. And when it comes to this meeting that took place in Alps, by the way, between representatives of US, UK, also Andrei Yermak, head of presidential officer in Ukraine, so-called Ukraine, also Budanov, head of main intelligence directorate of Kiev regime's defense ministry, and Valery Zaluzhny himself, former head of general staff of Kiev regime. Information about this meeting, during the which agreement was reached to replace Zelensky. This information is coming from SVR, Russia's foreign intelligence service, so I have no reason to doubt this report even for a second. Hello everyone, I hope you find informative and useful this short clip from main news update, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. It might help to deal with the algorithm and reach wider audience. And if you like my work in general and want to support to save this media project, you can assist through several ways. You can donate to this project through PayPal platform or Boosty, also with the crypto currencies, or you can subscribe to my Patreon page and page on Boosty, where I have quite a lot of extra content on regular basis. All the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, many thanks to everyone who already helped and continues to support. Thank you.